Hello and welcome to Manifesting Marvel, a new podcast dedicated to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm your co-host Jacob,
I'm your co-host Raga.
and today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're not just going to be discussing the Disney Plus episode of that week. We're also going to be discussing the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer, and it's our first video episode, which is kind of cool too. So
Yeah,
going forward, anybody watching or listening, there is also going to be a video option for the podcast because we thought it would be cool, and why not? We got some cool overlays to show off. So we'll kick this episode off with the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer. What were your initial thoughts?
I think I was a bit surprised because I wasn't looking at Twitter or anything, and then I read some like comments about how they're not going to release the trailer for Spider-Man and it's going to be released on theaters and because they don't want to give out a lot of information about the movie.
Hmm.
So I wasn't actually expecting it. So I kind of had like a little wind down moment of like, oh, actually, I'm not going to see a trailer for it. That's kind of bummer. But I didn't actually thinking about, oh, actually, there's going to be a trailer coming out or anything. I wasn't looking forward to it, and it was just a surprise.
Yeah.
And it was just a random day as well. I just flicked through it, and it was just there, and I was like, wow. And then that is even a bigger surprise for me than actually watching the trailer because I wasn't expecting it. So carrying on, more stuff happening on the trailer. I was just amazed
Yeah.
how that's going to look.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with you. It surprised me too because I saw that there was like rumors. There's been like rumors for weeks, hasn't there? That it's coming
Yeah,
out this day, it's coming out that day. Funnily enough, it came out on the day that was marked on the One Division calendar in episode 1.
yeah,
If anybody didn't know, which I thought was quite funny. So they planned something for that day. If it was Spider-Man all along, who knows? But that was a little like nod to it. And yeah, when I saw it, it just blew my mind because it kind of made me think back to when me and you were at university, and we
yeah.
freaked out when we saw the Captain America Civil War trailer when
Oh,
Spider-Man
yeah,
showed up at the end and was just like, "Hey everyone," with the shield. And like, who would have thought that we'd get like a film with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange and all of these villains coming back? Do you know what I mean? Like, they come back,
yeah,
like we're getting Green Goblin from the original series, we're getting Doc Ock from the original series, and they just look so cool as well. Like, it was cool to see Doc Ock with a little bit of like, um, what's the technology called? I don't know, when they make them younger, like
yeah.
de-aging
The
technology.
aging, yeah,
And it was cool to hear his voice, and I thought the soundtrack was very inspired by those films. And like, even the beginning of it, it was like the
yeah,
amazing like Spider-Man theme song, wasn't it, when they're sitting on the roof?
yeah,
And yeah, I just thought it was really, really cool. And I really liked how Doctor Strange kind of came in with the approach that he took. Like, they had saved half the world, and he probably was like, you'd imagine that Doctor Strange would be quite big headed now after
yeah,
everything that he's gone through, because he is like the Sorcerer Supreme. But it was interesting because parts of me were like, this is weird. Like, why didn't you listen to Wong? And
yeah,
why, like, the trailer at least makes it look like he goes against what he should do and like does it, and it just makes me think kind of like what the whole purpose is. But one thing I did want to kind of say to you about it was, obviously there's a big discussion about all these villains kind of
yeah,
showing up. I think they're calling them, is it the Sinister Six they're going for?
yeah. Sinister Six, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that,
Now, one thing that I thought was quite interesting is, obviously we know that what's his name's going to be in it now. So we've got Doc Ock
yeah,
and Green Goblin, which is 2. There's, I think it's confirmed now that Jamie Foxx is back with Electro, so that's 3.
yeah.
And
I'm not
then,
sure who else will be. Some of them are CGI, aren't they? Like that they're not real
yeah,
people with the roles.
but then what I was going to say from the trailer too is there seemed to be quite a lot of sand. So I wonder if Sandman's coming back.
Yeah,
And then another thing that I thought as well, because that's still only I think we still need 2 more. You could have Rhino from the Amazing Spider-Man universe with
yeah,
the other Spider-Man that we like, because there's 3. I can't remember his name
yeah.
now off the top of my head. What's the name of the second Spider-Man?
Yeah. Now you put me on the spot, man.
Ah,
Uh,
no.
is it Amazing Spider-Man? Andrew Garfield.
Andrew Garfield, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you could have Rhino from Andrew Garfield, and then you could have Vulture
So
from this universe
yeah.
because he's already fought him. And then that would leave one more. And this is kind of what I was going to say. That's we don't have a Sinister Five. So maybe they're hiding someone. I know there's been a lot of speculation online that you can see like the Lizard Man, Lizard
Yeah,
Doctor
Lizard
guy.
Man. That's what I was gonna say. Like he might pop up on it, but
Yeah.
you know, to be fair, it's a wild guess. Only reason is that we only seen one villain in that one,
Yeah.
and the second is Marvel known to hide
Yeah.
things in the trailer. Like remember when Thor Ragnarok, when the Mjolnir was breaking, it was looked like it was happening in New York, but it was happening just after New York.
Yeah.
But it was just that scene they could just manipulate it. So it could be anything. Like even that voice when they say "Be careful what you wish for, Peter." I think it sounded like Doctor Strange, but also I feel like it's not Doctor Strange, it's someone else.
Yeah. Let me
They
ask
could
you a
just
question
manipulate
then.
them. Yeah.
Do you think any of the scenes in the trailer maybe had the other Spider-Mans in them, but they were CGI'd out? Because one thing that I was thinking, when Doc Ock at the end kind of comes up and
Yeah.
goes, "Hello, Peter."
Yeah.
I don't think he's talking to Tom Holland's
No, I don't think so either.
Spider-Man. I think he's
Yeah.
talking to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man.
Toby, yeah, I feel like he's talking to Toby Maguire because that scene where he pops up does look similar to that bridge scene where Peter is there, but I feel like there's someone else going to be with Peter as well. So
Yeah.
I feel like other two Spider-Man's going to be there.
Yeah.
They just been removed. I feel like that's why because I don't think he could actually. I mean, it's quite a first name basis for a Spider-Man. You call him like you don't have much connection to. So
Yeah.
he must be calling the Harry Maguire like, but
And it's unanswered as well otherwise, because like
yeah,
how would you know that you were in a multiverse, you'd landed in another reality, and this person that doesn't look like Tobey Maguire is still Peter? Do you know what I mean? It'd just be weird. They
yeah,
they wouldn't be able to explain that. So I agree with you. And another thing I wonder too though is there's that scene where Doctor Strange like smacks Peter into like his astral form.
spiritual
Yeah, astral
astral form.
form.
Yeah,
And if you like see on that bit, he's holding that box, and I've seen a lot of discussion with this idea that maybe Doctor Strange is already capturing like villains from the multiverse that are popping up,
yeah,
and he's keeping them in this box, and that maybe Spider-Man finds out and he tries to like steal it or something, and then when he steals it, that's the scene in the trailer where like all the buildings go to like mirror dimension.
yeah. But can you tell me which Spider-Man he's knocking out of his astral form though? Because it shows Peter on there, like a Tom Holland one, but I feel like it's not that one. I think it's going to be someone,
Okay,
the
that could
other
be
Spider-Man.
interesting.
He's just
Yeah,
knocking him out. Because to be fair, like that make more sense because a Doctor Strange probably multiverse probably open, and they all been caught and put away,
mm,
and the Spider-Man from the either Tobey Maguire Spider-Man or the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man trying to rescue them and trying to take them back or
yeah,
trying to help them out because they might have worked out in that universe. They might have worked out some sort of a deal, like looking after each other and stuff like that. Where they're getting you know attacked by Doctor Strange and Tom
yeah.
Holland Spider-Man being caught. So I feel like he might have tried to steal them or one of them, and then they're getting knocked out.
Hmm.
That makes could work, but it'll be interesting because I don't trust it. I don't trust what's going on the trailer as there's going to be a depth in the movie, and also I feel like the trailer released so much of the storyline,
Yeah,
so I don't feel like that's going to be like the first 30 minutes of the movie. The rest is just going to be bonkers. Like we're not going to figure out what's going on.
yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with you. Well, we should probably stop discussing it there because it's
Yeah,
the first trailer, and I'm sure we'll probably want to bring it up again next week when we find out some more things. But if we maybe move on to the What If episode 3 this week, what if the world lost its mightiest heroes? And for me, this was an interesting one because Marvel tricked me, because we'd been saying for like the last couple of weeks that, oh yeah, like episode 3 is going to be the Loki episode because we'd seen
Yeah,
like certain bits. And then yesterday they shared like the what if stills, and it was Nick Fury and Black Widow on the day that it was. And I was like, what? This makes no sense. I thought this was
yeah,
all about Loki. And I was quite confused. But then when it opened up, it was interesting because there's obviously been a lot of reference to like Fury's big week, as it
yeah,
were, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because it kind of goes on to create everything, because obviously that
yeah.
is the
The
Avengers
Avengers. Yeah,
initiative. And I thought it was really cool because even though this kind of storyline's been seen hundreds of times, like even just me and you, we've watched the film so many times that a lot of those scenes were like kind of ingrained in our MCU memory. But it
yeah,
was nice to see like little twists on them. And another thing that I really appreciated, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit too, was how they put the Mark Ruffalo
yeah.
Hulk in like the
The Incredible
scenery
Hulk.
of
Yeah,
the Incredible Hulk.
yeah. That's very cool because I quite like that, and I wouldn't mind the Edward Norton playing that role for that scene.
Yeah, that would
It
have been
would be
cool.
pretty cool. But it's quite interesting because, like, I was thinking it's going to be what if Loki take over the world or, win the world. But it is at the end result. But it just for me seeing like when I saw Black Widow and Nick Fury and like, okay, what's going on here? Is it going to be some sort of different Avengers that they're going to form or something like that? Then I read the title and I was like, okay, that's just people going to get killed and it was crazy. And then they, like you mentioned, like the big week and Fury, and then like the each day, Monday, and what happened, and it's quite cool to see that like they to take on a different
Yeah.
task, and then that week gone really bad.
Yeah. I'd agree with you. And like it set a tone as well. Like we haven't had that many dark things for a while. And
Yeah,
it seemed like quite a dark episode, which kind of excites me for the zombie episode that they're going to be doing and stuff, because it felt like they could really turn it up if they wanted to. And
yeah,
obviously, like we said, so the episode opens up and it's kind of all based around like Fury's big week, where he goes and visits all the heroes, and he sends Black Widow to like go and visit them too. And it's cool because it kind of has that scene again with Iron Man sitting in the
right,
donut, and
yeah,
they like come in and they're being all cocky, and obviously Black Widow injects Iron Man with whatever it is, with that stuff, but he dies. And that kind of shocked me because it's quite quick. I know the what if episodes move quite quickly through them, don't they? It's very
yeah,
quick, like very fast paced. But that shocked me because I was like, oh, okay, we're actually going to lose everybody here. How quick is this going to be?
yeah,
And when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh my God, like, can you imagine what kind of outcome that would have had for the future, like not having Iron Man in the MCU timeline that like we've watched, because he's like the center point around it, and it was crazy that that would happen. And when you were thinking about it, you'd be like, yeah, that could totally happen by accident as well, too. Like, I, before I
yeah,
even started thinking that somebody was killing them, I
yeah,
thought the episode was going to take the approach that like Shield had just messed up and everybody was going to die in like unfortunate circumstances. But
yeah,
as we saw like each person starting to be picked off, you kind of like, oh, okay, there's like somebody coming after them. Who could it be? And then I really liked how you heard the Watcher start
yeah.
talking about how like the Avengers came together and it played like the Avengers
The
theme
Avengers
tune.
theme song, yeah, that
Yeah,
was pretty cool as well.
and then it cuts and you see like Coulson with Thor's hammer again, and you're like, here we go, and they're all in the desert,
Yeah,
and you get to hear like Nick Fury's line again, but it's
side of things.
a little
Yeah,
bit different, and he's talking about this idea of like, how are we going to know who it is? We're just going to let him come, and we're going to hope that he's nice, which is
but
also kind of a nod to
yeah,
the end of the episode, because that's what he does with Loki. He just lets him
that
come and hopes he's
like
nice.
uh that scene where Coulson find the hammer, like
Yeah,
we only hear him talking in the initial version of it. We
yeah,
don't hear who's on the other side.
yeah,
And then I think this one is just give that perspective of what's happening on that week.
Yeah.
And we also like for me, I thought it was happening in different occasions, whereas the whole scene was actually happening like in the week period, the big week.
Yeah.
Like I was always thinking like, oh, it's a different timeline. It can't be, but we can see that how things were close together back then on those hours with the different perspective of Nick Fury.
Yeah. Yeah. And then obviously it then cuts, doesn't it? Because
Yeah,
Black Widow's been arrested for the murder of
of
Tony
Iron Man.
Stark. Yeah.
Yeah,
And we see Brock Rumlow again, which is Crossbones, and I think it was the guy voicing him. When I heard it, it sounded like him, and I appreciated how everything he was saying, that she can't even punch and all this kind of stuff. She was doing
yeah,
like excessive punching and stuff in the back of the lorry, and that was pretty cool. And then obviously she escapes, but there was a lot of cool little nods there, because there's mentions to like
yeah.
Alexander Pierce from Winter Soldier, and
Hydra.
which was all like the cell, like the cell within Shield. And I wonder if this universe could explore that route, because I know we've discussed it a lot now, but I do often think watching these what if things is like, how are they going to bring all these different heroes together? Because it's going to be like
Yeah,
a team of multiversal heroes. Do you know what I mean? Because the what if is the whole point about having different universes, but someone's going to bring them together, because we've seen excerpts of like Captain Carter with Doctor Strange and all these people. So
yeah,
it will be interesting. But then we see Natasha obviously go and visit Betty Ross and the Hulk, and she's dressed how she is in like Winter Soldier and Civil War, which is like the undercover hoodie and glasses.
yeah.
And they got the voice for Betty Ross as well, I think, the actor that played her. And
I think so. Yeah,
I thought that was really cool. I enjoyed having the Mark Ruffalo version in that
yeah.
setting.
Kind of. I know, like it's kind of replaced the whole the character after, because we know like we really wanted to. It would be different to see Mark Ruffalo in the Incredible Hulk movie. I don't think they would have went with the same as the Edward Norton one,
Yeah.
but it's quite nice to see he's back on that scene and doing the whole thing. I quite like how they went back to the initial building with the vehicles coming over. Like, we're missing Abomination, but in there, but it's pretty cool. I think we'll see him in different episode, aren't we?
I think so. And like
Yeah,
he's popping up as well in Shang-Chi. So
yeah,
it's cool that like all these old Marvel properties are getting a bit of love again now, that they can like do more with it, with the whole
yeah.
multiverse idea. And I do wonder who else is going to like show up now that they can kind of bring in all these other old films, because they can kind of go the multiverse route.
They can definitely do whatever they want at the moment. It's just crazy, like to think which character gonna pop up where,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
And then obviously what if love to do is have multiple things going on at once. So then Loki arrives to Earth. Oh no, sorry, Loki doesn't arrive to Earth. You have Thor show up, try and pick up the hammer, and then
Yep,
Hawkeye misfires a bow, or somebody fires a bow, but it's not shown really, and Thor dies, which is kind of crazy. And then we've lost two heroes, and it's a little bit nuts, because you're beginning to realize that how quickly these are all dying, and you're beginning to put the pieces together as well, that somebody's coming
yeah,
for them. And then you have Loki arriving to Earth wielding the casket of ancient winters, which is what we've seen the frost giants use
cross
in
chance
the
use, yeah.
previous films, which kind of just blasts
Is that Thor
frost.
1, isn't it?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
kind of just blasts frost everywhere, doesn't it? And it freezes everything. But whilst this is happening, like whilst he shows up and he's like, "Who killed my brother Thor?" and Nick Fury's talking to him, Bruce also gets attacked on campus by
yeah.
General Ross, turns into the Hulk, and it all starts kicking off, and you're like, "Oh my god!"
I quite like that. I quite like that scene where you have to switch between two of them, where it's just very aggressive and things were going on too fast. Like, one of the things that you mentioned is that when Bruce transformed into Hulk was in the same spot as a movie.
Mm,
But only thing I felt like I was missing is just the smokes, but the
yeah,
board started popping out.
yeah,
And in case you remember, it comes out of the smoke, like, because it wasn't, that goes to show that that's not, that events are happening differently, because they were not firing initially. It was if someone misfired, But yeah, it was really cool to see that, that two things were going at the same time.
Yeah, it's funny you should say that, really, because Hulk ultimately dies going up in smoke, which is interesting because he starts expanding and he poofs.
Yeah,
And I was really confused at that point because I was a bit like, Hulk can't die. What's gone on here? And
yeah,
I wanted to like have an explanation, and I'm sure we'll talk about what the explanation is in a little bit. But that interested me then because I was like, this is weird now.
yeah.
Like,
He could,
what's going on here, kind of thing.
who can heal Hulk? Because the Hulk is my like favorite character. It's one of them. I was like, how Hulk could die? Like this is impossible. Like,
Yeah,
and then at the end it reveals. But
yeah.
before that, we just go and talk about the some other events that takes place.
Yeah, and then you have obviously Nick Fury then gets a phone call from Nat while Nat's in the library, and thinks she's figured out who it is, or she's talking, but she starts getting beaten up by nothing. If you know,
Oh
and she's
yeah,
getting thrown around, smash out, and then I put two and two together then on who I thought it was, and she keeps shouting "Hope, hope, hope," and
yeah. That's when I kind of clocked
yeah, and then she
that
gets
what's
her
going
ass
on.
kicked,
Yeah,
and then it cuts to like what's his name? Fury kind of freaking out because he realizes that he's the last person on the Avengers initiative and
yeah,
somebody else must have known about it. And has he recruited anyone and where could he be, kind of thing. And it cuts, I think, then to him being in a graveyard in San Francisco, and you're like,
yeah.
okay, I noticed this place. I think I know what's about to go on.
Yeah, I know when like I kind of clogged with the name with the word it's all about hope,
Yeah,
and then when it got to San Francisco, I kind of clogged who could be,
yeah,
but I wasn't entirely sure who's exactly going to be because I thought it was some, you know,
yeah,
basically like Ant-Man.
yeah,
Basically, that's what I was thinking, but
yeah.
it wasn't. But it was very surprising to see.
Yeah, and then obviously just before this villain shows up, because it's all ominous and you know something's about to go down, Nick
Yeah,
Fury gets out his Captain Marvel beeper, and you're like, oh, okay, he's gonna call in the captain, and he presses a
yeah,
button, puts it away, and then it's shown that it's Hank Pym, and he's in like the yellow jacket outfit, which is obviously a nod
yeah,
to the comics when he goes a little bit evil. And it's an interesting take on the storyline because obviously it's very similar to what happened, but instead of um, it being like a self-sacrifice, it's more
yeah,
so a like a killing, and he blames Shield for it. And I thought that was a really interesting take because it would be crazy to see like an old Hank Pym just show up angry trying to kill everyone, and he could. And then it explained how Hulk died with
yeah,
the heart being expanded. It explained it how Iron
yeah.
Man died with him being in the like in the injection thing. It explained how Thor died with him flicking Hawkeye when he was taking the shot. And
And
then
then goes through Hawkeye ears,
yeah,
which is quite horrible.
it is horrible and it's quite
Yeah,
brutal. And
yeah, and then I wasn't thinking like that's what he deserved. That's no way he's supposed to go. But again, it's quite surprising because the when Ant-Man died and stuff like that, not Ant-Man, I mean Iron Man died. The only thing I was thinking who could kill all the superheroes, either is Punisher
yeah,
or Deadpool, because they both have in comics.
yeah,
They have killed everybody in comics. So I was like, oh, it's one of them, and we're gonna see Punisher. Because especially with the second one when Thor died, it was like, okay, that's look like a Punisher. Then when
yeah, yeah,
Hulk
yeah,
gets shot, I'm like, yeah, that's Punisher. That's what I was going for
yeah.
until the library scene as well. That one thing that we miss on the library scene is the Coulson password.
Oh yeah, when Coulson's like showing, it's like a nod, isn't it, to the film
Yeah,
where
to
he's trying
Avengers. Yeah,
because he's in love with Captain America, trying to get him to sign his
Steve,
cards and
Steve,
everything.
Steve, Steve, Steve.
Yeah,
That might be my new password actually.
yeah.
Don't try that.
But then I got confused because he starts fighting Nick Fury, and Nick Fury's really good at fighting him, and I'm
Yeah,
like, what's going on here? How did none of the Avengers or anybody stop it? But Nick Fury's quite happily with one eye just having a smackdown with like Yellow
That
Jacket, and then it's revealed that it's Loki because they're working together to find who killed
yeah,
Loki's brother, and it just makes sense. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's like another way. Like instead of Loki showing up for the Battle of New York, he shows up to get his brother, but they become friends, and it's a nod back to the beginning of the episode where Nick Fury's all about whoever shows up, we just hope that they're nice, kind of thing.
yeah,
And then obviously it then cuts and it's revealed that Loki has took over the planet within 2 weeks, and
yeah.
he's the
He's
lead.
at the UN.
Yeah, he's the lead. He's the leader of the world, and Asgard, like ships are floating everywhere. And then you're kind of like, oh no, all hope is lost. And then you get Nick Fury finding Cap in the ice. You're like,
Yeah,
oh, of course. So not all of the Avengers are gone. And then he goes Captain, and then Carl Danvers is standing behind him, and she like crunches her knuckles, and she's like, where do I go, or who do I fight? And
yeah,
because she's also a captain, and then the Captain Marvel theme song starts playing. And I just thought it was sweet. I was like, this is so cool.
yeah.
I would have loved this cartoon when I was younger.
I would love that as well, but I think to think that is that much crazy. I think this cartoon wouldn't be that great if we not seen the first Avenger and all that stories,
Yeah.
because it's quite interesting to see the different take on. For example, like I don't think we would have appreciated the scene where the donut scene where Tony Stark is like,
Yeah.
unless we've seen it before in person, and how iconic that scene was
True.
after a movie that just everything stops and it's quite nice, and we're hoping something's gonna happen and then it happens there. Like, so everyone remember that scene.
Mm.
So it's quite, quite good in a sense. Like, but I don't think like as a kid I would mediocre. Like I would be enjoying it as like, oh yeah, it's a Marvel story, but I wouldn't be raving about it. But and now I can because it's absolutely amazing storyline.
Yeah. No, that's a fair point. That's a
Yeah,
fair point. I hadn't thought about it that way. So we'll do something a little bit new this week. Towards the end of the
yeah.
episode, is this your favorite episode of What If, or do you still have another one that is currently still your favorite? And we'll just do
Uh,
this every week. We'll see if the new one is
yeah,
the best.
I think I'll still go for the episode 2. What if T'Challa became Star Lord? Because
I would agree with you.
that was a happy universe. I
Yeah.
would prefer that universe. There's no Thanos just trying to kill, but
Yeah.
obviously, it's not that universe ends because ego just takes over
Yeah.
all the planets. But that's still a great storyline to go with. And but I would say this episode also there, like
Mm,
wasn't far off from it. But
yeah.
for me, still, I quite enjoy the T'Challa story. I think maybe because I know that I'm not going to see much of it in the future.
Yeah, I'd agree with
But
you. I'd
yeah,
say the same. I'd say the same. I'd rank them. I'd actually still rank them. Episode 2 T'Challa, episode 1 Captain Carter,
yeah,
episode 3 uh the world lost its mightiest heroes. I'd say so far. I still loved this episode, and I'd watch it again. But I really liked episode 2, and I quite enjoyed episode 1.
yeah. And I think I would say the same. Only reason is that I find a couple of things in this one is quite different because remember the episode 1 when what ifs like the situation take place where she make one decision that's led to that
Yeah,
one, whereas in episode 2 the Avengers pick up the wrong boy in the wrong location. That's where it led to it because um and then episode 3 it looks like there's already a lot of things that happened previously
yeah,
because before he went uh Hope One Dyke wasn't actually in the Avengers. She was after Avengers. So to have her already, doing something for Nick Fury, I feel like that universe is already has changed in a different moment, and
yeah,
we only get inside of like somewhere in the middle, not
yeah,
at the like end or the beginning. Because other two, we will start seeing the beginning of it, which is quite interesting. How the universes take place,
yeah,
but this one is like somewhere in the middle. So I was a bit confused by that because there's a lot of decisions where went against the normal universe,
yeah.
and so it's quite interesting to see that.
No, I'd agree. I'd agree. I'd agree with you. I really enjoy. I really enjoy them still. I think they're awesome.
Oh yeah,
I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel on the cartoon because I was excited, but I was like, I really do enjoy the shows. And obviously, I knew the cartoon was going to be quite short, but
Yeah.
so far so good. No complaints, and I can imagine they're only going to get better and more connected and tangled with each other as we go on. So it should be good. But we should probably call it there for this week's episode. So to everybody watching us on YouTube, thank you. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button
Yeah.
and turn notifications on. And if you don't want to turn notifications on, we post every single Friday. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're following us and make sure you give us a nice rating because it helps with being discovered in the algorithm and charting. If you're watching on YouTube, let us know down in the comment section below if we missed anything for the Spider-Man trailer or for the What If episode 3, and to like the video. And if you want to follow us on social media, it's at Manifest Marvel on both Instagram and Twitter. You can follow me on the socials at Jacob E. Carson, and you can follow Raga on the socials at
AJ Ventura 93.
And yeah, we will catch you next week for episode 4 of What If.